Or is any particular individual or group of individuals given credit for this transformation that China has undergone over particularly the last 30 years?
Well, Larry, the party, of course. And you know that, well, okay, the Communist Party of China is monolithic in several aspects. But at the same time, we know there are lots of divisions and clashes inside the different levels of the party. But they always keep, I would say it's a Maoist Dengist approach, in fact, which is pay attention to the grassroots all the time. Listen to what the grassroots is saying or proposing, and meritocracy. Meritocracy is essential. If you're not a true meritocrat, you won't have a career at the top levels of the Chinese Communist Party. So, of course, there are purges on and off. We all know that. Of course, it's an immense organization, and the mind boggles how they organize themselves, in fact, and how they manage to organize not only the government of 1.4 billion people, but their interactions with the provincial governments, because these provinces, some of them are as powerful as Beijing. For instance, the province of Guangdong in the south that has Guangzhou, wow, it's an absolute powerhouse. And it's close to Hong Kong and Macau on top of it. Beijing, Tianjin, that area, wow, it's one of the top GDPs in the world in itself. So, and a level of modernization that is absolutely mind-boggling. So how do they do it in the long term? Central planning, long term. The 5-year plans, subsequent 5-year plans, they have already planned everything to 2035 at least. So this means 3 subsequent 5-year plans since 2025. Since 2020, if I remember well. 2020, they were already thinking about 2035. Another example in high tech. When they came up with this idea of Made in China 2025, which was 10 years ago, way before Trump 1.0. Trump 1.0, they slapped their first tariffs on China in 2018, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Right.
So 2000, the idea, okay, they planned for 10 years. They said, okay, in 10 years, we're going to arrive in 2025, if not as leaders, at least number 2 or number 3 in these 10 high-tech sectors. What's happening now? They are leaders in 7, perhaps 8, and soon they will be leaders in 10. How do you do that? Central planning, meritocracy, enticing your best minds to stay in China. So you're not going to go to MIT or Silicon Valley, make a career in the US and never come back to China. No, you can go there, study, go wherever, but you come back here and you develop high tech here in Chinese soil, which explains, among other things, the success of Huawei, of DeepSeek, you name it. They left and they came back.
Right.
Well, and now they're even prouder of being Chinese, because when they see the actual fruits of the development in front of them every day, of course. And this is something that we feel, Larry, in small details here and there, this sense of self-confidence, especially young Chinese people.
Well, are you familiar with, there's a guy on YouTube, Kevin Walmsley, he does Inside China Business.
Yes.
Yeah, so, and, one of the, he always shows this amazing side of China, just like what you're describing, that you see the modernization. But he also said that within this last 2 years, as the tensions with the United States have increased, the Chinese upper class that could afford to send their kids to schools in the United States are no longer sending them. They are keeping them at home. And in fact, those Chinese that have studied in the West, particularly in the United States, when they come back, they're actually unemployable or they're having trouble finding jobs.
Unemployable, yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, and I don't think most people here in the United States have caught up or captured, again, this fundamental change in the relationship that China's through being subservient. China is through kowtowing to the West.
That's over. And well, for certain, I would say, strategic sectors of the American ruling classes, they will never admit that.
Yeah. No, I
It will
agree.
be immensely painful to admit that. But this is reality now. For instance, we don't need American universities. We have Tsinghua. Tsinghua is probably the number one scientific university in the world now. Not to mention the other ones.
Yeah.
Right? Huawei. Oh my God. I had a crash course on that trifold Huawei that turns into an iPad. But it's something absolutely mind-boggling. It's expensive. It costs $3,000, but it's worth it.
Yeah.
It's worth every bite of it. And the guy was wonderful. He said, I know the problem is you really cannot use it in the West, and it's very risky. There is a trick. If we install one app, this app can, absorb the Western apps like Google and all that, but there's no guarantee that it will keep working. So, but when you look at the technology, you see how much ahead of any crap that Apple is doing. It's absolutely mind-boggling.
Yeah.
Even Xiaomi, the new Xiaomi Pro 17, when you compare it to the iPhone Pro 17, it's a joke. It's much, much better. And fraction of the cost. The SUVs, Larry, is absolutely extraordinary. Not to mention the tank jeeps. If I lived there, I would buy a tank jeep. Definitely.
Yeah.
It's small, compact, very, very powerful. Maneuverability, excellent. Super price. And it's no wonder they are kicking the Japanese out of the market.
Dude, I don't know if I've seen them in Moscow, but I guess they are exporting them to Moscow now, right?
Yes, the Russians love the tank jeeps. Well, not to mention the luxury SUVs.
Yeah. So this, as you got farther west in China, they're not really paying much attention to what's going on with the international affairs.
No, absolutely. The feeling, Larry, is that the West not only disappears, but in many aspects does not even exist.
Mm-hmm.
It registers in a few brands. When you look at a Gucci shop somewhere, they're here. And they don't buy it anymore, which is, for instance, I went to can you imagine? I am in Lanzhou, which is a tier 4 city. So I left the museum and I bumped into a super sleek high-tech mall, and all the shops of Western brands, they were totally empty. And when people were buying, they were buying Chinese brands.
Mm-hmm.
And Chinese brands of, let's say, mid-level, but excellent craftsmanship, very, very good prices. Some of them are ultra modern, everything, the logos, you name it, styles comparable to anything you find in the West. So they really don't need it anymore. And well, and when there are comments about the progressive suicide of Western civilization, this is something that I talked a little bit in Beijing and in Xi'an. They're puzzled. But they say, okay, but they're doing this to themselves.
Yeah.
We Chinese, we are taking care of ourselves. Look around you.